The JLR interview series.
Okay, so it's Friday afternoon, just after 3:30 p.m. on a not the best Friday afternoon in London, but that's how it goes. And today I've got the great Guy Barker with us, one of the stalwarts of British jazz. So how are you this afternoon?
Well, I'm very well, but I can look out my window and Chiswick's looking quite bright, actually.
Oh,
So,
how about that? Well, I'm in Greenwich and it's not as bright. It was bright
oh,
about an hour and a half ago.
oh, great, we're getting it now.
Well, London's such a big town, isn't it? So the weather could be like something here, and then a few miles away could be completely different. It's changing all the
Absolutely.
time.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
excellent. Exactly, yeah. So basically we're here to talk about really interesting thing that's happening on the 17th of December. Now, this is your sort of big band Christmas do,
Yeah.
and it's at the Royal Albert Hall, and it's going to be your 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
So basically, I would like you, if you could tell us about that and what's planned for this year and things, and basically how the idea came about. So it's kind of a two-pronged question for you.
Okay, the way it came about was there was a lady who used to work at the Albert Hall. She's not there anymore, called Lucy Noble. And she approached me and just said, I've seen all those concerts you do, and I really like what you do. I'd like to work with you. You know, why don't we have a chat? So I came in and we had a chat, and she basically said, look, if you could do anything at all, money was no object, or anything, if there's a project you've got, what would it be? And I often collaborate with a wonderful author called Rob Ryan, and we've made albums together, and he's inspired me to like we did a project last year called Inferno 67, which was for a big band and three actors and two singers, and he writes the stories and I work with them. But we found we were working on the idea of a grand kind of almost semi-opera idea based on an incident that happened in a William Burroughs and Jack Kerouac book called "And the Hippos Were Boiled in Their Tanks." So now it sounds like we're getting bizarre, but I promise it will come back to Christmas in a minute. And it had a big band and an orchestra and all this stuff. And we talked about it, and then I had a couple of ideas for soloists, and it turned out that they were on tour and it was all a bit too much, and so we abandoned it. And then Lucy called me back again and said, look, we still want to work with you. Why don't you come and have a chat? So I came and had a chat, and she said, how would you like the idea of a big band Christmas thing? um do you know, my immediate reaction was, oh, really? I don't know. I just smelt cheese, and then Big Bang Christmas, I thought, oh, well, is this going to be, do you want me to do a Rat Pack thing? And I thought, I can't do, I've worked with Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis. I don't want to do an impersonation. I've worked with the real people. Um, and I really didn't know. And I was really thinking, I'm not sure. And so she said, go away and have a think about it and come back. So I got back and I started doing some research, and I thought, I wonder if what some of those great jazz musicians did for Christmas, if they did. And I found a fantastic album by Ahmad Jamal's trio, which was
All right.
so hip, the Christmas album. And then Jimmy Smith, the Hammond organ player, and he did this album with Billy Byers and Oliver Nelson. And I said, this sounds great. And then Ellington and Basie. And then I started investigating. Even James Brown had written a Christmas song. Yeah. And
Yes, it has because we play it every year. Actually, it's a great
yeah.
song. Santa Claus, something to do with Santa Claus in the ghettos, coming to the
Oh, no,
ghettos.
that was another one. No, there's another one. I can't remember
Oh,
what it
there's
was
another
called.
one.
But I found all these. But I have to be honest, the thing that made me just go, I've got to do this, because it made me laugh. Um, Louis Prima, the great Louis Prima, had a hit in 1938. And it just goes to show the way that language has changed over the years, because the title of his hit was "What Will Santa Claus Say When He Finds Everybody Swinging?" And I just couldn't stop laughing. And I just said, I'll do it. And the first thing I did, I said, I'm going to do it. And we're going to play that as the opening number. And I'm going to ask Clark Peters to sing it. And and then it became like this thing of like, how can we make this Christmas kind of hip, but without, and so I said, well, let's have a band on sleigh bells, and we'll have a great orchestra and great guests, and we'll do some soul things as well, and all of that. And one of the reviewers for the concert, the first concert for I think he wrote for the Times, said his headline was, "This was Christmas without the cheese." And we all sort of punched the air and said yes. But then it just kept going. And I absolutely love it. We have amazing musicians, and there's some people that come back every year, and then lots of different people. Like Vanessa Haynes comes back often, and Giacomo Smith. And then Kurt Elling has done it. He's come over from the States, and Liv Warfield. I don't know if you know her. She used to sing with Prince. She came over.
Okay.
Lots of people and new people. Like this year, we've got this new girl called Naomi Banks, who's just sensational and absolutely blows me away. She's just so talented. And I said, let's do, come and do one. So I've done an arrangement of You're a Mean One, Mr. Grinch for her. So that's
So
it.
basically,
Humbling, yeah.
no, sorry, cut across you, but I mean, so was that your idea at first, or did it just happen that it turned out to be like a big extravaganza? Was that the plan when you decided to do it?
Yeah, because big band was in the title. So you had to have a big band. But I said, I need strings, And
Mm.
I said, I want to do something different in the size of the orchestra. So I have 18 strings. And then we have 5 trumpets, 4 trombones, 5 saxes, bass, and guitar. And I said, let's have 2 drummers. And then
Two
let's have
drummers.
we have 2 drummers, and we have two pianos, but one doubles on Hammond organ. And
Oh,
it just gives it. And the 2 drummers, inevitably every night every show at the end, they have a battle, and it's just really exciting. And then there are other additions, and if anybody's listening who's going to come along, I won't tell you the other additions because it'll spoil the surprise.
oh, well, you see, I was going to ask you that, but now I know, so I won't bother to ask you. But one thing I was going to ask you, I'm glad you kind of thought of clearing it up, because I was going to ask you, when does a big band become an orchestra? Because it's listed as a big band, but I've looked at some of the footage, and it's massive
Yeah,
on stage. I mean, so
yeah.
so so it's
There's
both
30.
basically.
Yeah, it's 30. Yeah, but the tradition of big band and strings has been something that's existed since the beginning of the century. Paul
Which
Whiteman's band.
century?
Yeah. The last one,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
the one with all the music in it. We
We'll
had,
get there.
yeah. We had Paul Whiteman that had big band strings. Harry James, Goodman. A lot of those bands had a big band and strings, and it became a kind of stalwart lineup for the American Songbook. I mean, you listen to Sinatra and Nat King Cole, and all those arrangements by Nelson Riddle. It was always big band and strings, so it was kind of like you could call it an orchestra and you could call it a big band.
Hmm. Kind of like what Brubeck did, I think in the early 60s when he played Bernstein. Brubeck
Oh,
plays
Bernstein.
Bernstein, plays Bernstein.
Yeah. Bernstein. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And what about you? Because I want to ask you about your role. Because obviously you're well-renowned, fantastic trumpet player, but also you're an arranger now. So have you been doing that from the inception, or is that something that's evolved?
Yeah. I when I was a young man, when I was like 20, I wanted to write. I always wanted to write, and then I would say nearly 20 years ago, no, a bit longer than that, I decided to study again, and I went and studied classical composition again. And then I got asked to do 2 jobs. One was the opening night of the London Jazz Festival, which we've just done. That was 18 years ago. And they asked me to do something and put an orchestra together and conduct and write arrangements for singers. And then I got asked something about 3 weeks later to do something at the Cheltenham Jazz Festival with the BBC Concert Orchestra and the big band, telling the story of Billy Strayhorn and telling the story of Billie Holiday and all. And at that point, my life started to change without me having any control over it. It wasn't like I asked for anything. And suddenly I found myself in a situation where I was writing so much, and I'd look at the table and my trumpet was sitting in the corner like a whimpering dog wanting to go out for a walk. And I said, I can't. And the trumpet is a, as an old girlfriend of mine once referred to it, as a harsh mistress. It's, you know, you leave it for a day, 2 days, the band knows, 3 days, the audience knows. So really the writing has completely taken over. And when you have a real large ensemble like that, it's a big ship to steer. So I create all the music that you hear there are a lot of my own original arrangements, but a lot of the time I take existing things like for the swing era stuff we do, and then I embellish them for the orchestra. And I have a great friend. I have a wonderful man called Alan Prosser, who has, as we English, he can hear anything. So a musician would say he's got ears like elephants, But he does a lot of transcribing for me, and I'll say to him, "Look, I've got to do a version of this Harry James song, and there's no music for it." And so he'll write out the saxophone and trumpet and then send it to me, and I'll try and work it out and then put it into a medley, and then one of the vocalists might say, I want to do that, but I'll need to do it a tone lower. So it's loads of work.
Well, I can imagine. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, but this particular gig is a lot of fun.
Yeah, so I mean, I mean, that's something I haven't thought about before. But so you're arranging, so you're almost like a manager as well, because if people are coming to you and they all got their little things they need
Yeah,
sorting out.
I wouldn't see. I mean, I guess you could. The closest you could say is a producer, like you
Right.
put things together. Yeah, but then my favorite thing is collaborating, and I like collaborating with people. Like for example, like Joe Stilgo has an original song about Christmas, and he said, "What do you think of this?" And I said, "That sounds great." And he said, "Okay, well look." I said, "Well, have you got an arrangement?" He said, "Well, I can piece together what I've got, and then if I send it to you, can you add all the strings and the extra bits and pieces?" And then we talk about it over the phone, and then the vocalists, I'll say, "What do you want to do?" It's Christmas. What do you want to do? And they'll say, "What have you got?" And I can mention a whole load of things, but nearly always we find something new. And this is the thing, it's the 10th year, and we're still finding new Christmas songs. Obviously, not everything will be Christmas songs, because I said the first year, I said, if we only did Christmas songs, we run out of good ones by the third year,
Well, that's interesting then. So they're not all Christmas songs, but are they like upbeat songs as well?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
So, but they'll have a connection. Like 1 year we did "Heaven Help Us All," which is a soul song, and there's another song called "Great Day," and they have a kind of association with it. And then there's another one. Oh, we did "Bridge Over Troubled Waters" once. I think anything that's Christmas and anything that has something connected with Christmas. So, religion is connected with Christmas for some people, and then, one time we did one of those arrangements that modulated up every chorus and built and built and built, and it was a version of "Singing in the Rain," and our excuse was that's always on the telly at Christmas. But we have some fun. Yeah. Well, but we have a lot of fun. We do have a lot of fun. And there are tunes that you cannot not do. So yes, you will hear Jingle Bells. We do it as a mambo.
Mambo.
A mambo, yeah. There's a fantastic version of it. You should check it out. It's by Pete Rugolo. Have a look and put Jingle Bells Mambo, Pete Rugolo, and we kind of base it on that.
Okay, I'm just writing it down.
It's amazing. It's all those West Coast studio guys in the 50s, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
So what I want to ask you, so basically you don't sort of play the trumpet as much as you used to. Would that be correct or not?
yeah, yeah, I don't. I mean, I used to run around and be on tour and all the time.
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
play every day. That's the first thing I do when I get up in the morning. I put a mute in, even if it's 7 in the morning.
Hmm.
And I practice for an hour and a half. That's nowhere
Okay.
near enough. But I do some gigs now and then. But the what's happened is the writing, just the invitations to do it. I'm very fortunate that almost everything I get asked to do is something I do for nothing. You know, it's not
Wow.
really. I've just been asked to a commission to write some big band arrangements of Hank Mobley songs, and
Mobley, that's interesting.
Hank Mobley,
And
and
Mobley.
I just said that's a gift, And then
Hmm.
because I have the Christmas concert, and we've just done the opening night of the London Jazz Festival. Straight after the Christmas, we're doing a concert with a lot of these vocalists and with the Halle Orchestra in Manchester, and then we're doing New Year's Eve with the RTE Concert Orchestra in Dublin.
Hmm.
So, and everything needs music, so it's
So, yeah, it's amazing. And with those other ones, are those like ones that you do like re on a regular basis, or are these just one-offs?
well, I the RTE Concert Orchestra I work with like about 4 times a year.
Okay.
I've got a position with them, whatever they call that, but they say I'm their associate artist, but they're a beautiful orchestra, and we talk about stuff, and they just say, well, what do you want to do? One year we did a co-collaboration between the BBC Concert Orchestra and them to celebrate Charles Mingus's centenary. So we did a project of that, and next year in May we're going to do my orchestration of Kind of Blue because of Miles's centenary.
Oh
Um,
yes.
yeah, yeah. So it's a constant thing.
Wow.
Uh,
That's amazing because one of the things you're telling me, we'll get back to the concert, but I'm quite intrigued because you've worked with so many amazing artists, like in the pop and jazz world. And there's a few names that I saw which popped into my mind because when you talk about collaboration, and we know that some of these like leaders are quite strong-willed, and it's about what they want as opposed to, I mean, when you work with people like that, do you find it easy, or do you just have to go with the flow, or do you
no, no,
understand that
no. Well,
everyone's slightly
yeah,
different?
but you understand what the job is in the first place. Like if
Hmm.
I'm going to go on stage and play my trumpet, which I have done a few times recently with Van Morrison, it's his show, it's his songs. I'm not going to sit there saying, "Oh, could we do something else?" No, I mean, and he's great. It's I guess it's when the vocalists and I do a concert like the London Jazz Festival or Cheltenham or one of these, and there's vocalists who are going to come along and they're going to sing two songs. I always sit down with them and say, well, what do you want to do? What would you really like? You've got an amazing orchestra. What do you want to do? Do you want to do one of your own songs? Do you want to do, you've got a new album out. Do you want to pick one of those? And, or like the great Dee Dee Bridgewater, who's been a dear friend of mine for years. I worked with her recently, and she'd worked with Roy Ayers. And I said, "What do you want to do?" She said, "Could we do like a tribute to Roy?" And I said, "Of course you can. What do you want to do?" And she said, "Well, I can't make up my mind between A Tear to a Smile and Everybody Loves the Sunshine." I said, "Well, let's do both." So she said, "Yeah, let's do both." And we did a medley. And then a singer like will turn up like Veronica Swift last year. She came along. She said, "Look, I've got this big band chart that I did of this song. Can we use that?" I said, "Yeah, but and can I add the French horns and the strings and blah blah blah?" And then the next person will turn up and they say, "What do you want to do?" And they say such and such. And I said, "Is there anything?" She said, "No, just do what you do, and I'll join in." So it's everything. It's everything. You know.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
great because I suppose they must have an advanced knowledge that you're a really collaborative person and easy to to get along with and say,
Yeah,
let's work together on something, and
yeah.
given their heads, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, for example, on the Jazz Voice, the opening night London Jazz Festival, we're talking about that at the beginning of the year. I'm already having conversations for the concert in November, in March. There might be a couple of singers who said, "Yeah, we'd love to do that," and I would have already had a long chat with them, and they'd have had things and backwards and forwards, and then we said, "Right, let's do these two, and I'll work on it." And then if they're over here. Um, Before the concert. They'll come round to my little flat here and I'll play them the arrangement on my computer. And if they say, actually, do you know what? That's a bit high, can or whatever. Or they'll just go, that's fantastic. And off we go. I think the
Yeah,
important thing is preparation. That's the most important thing.
yeah.
So that when you step into that first recording session or that first rehearsal or whatever it is, there are no surprises. You know exactly what's coming. Um,
I mean, yeah. Sorry.
yeah, and of course the other thing is that you hear as soon as you have a size of orchestra that I find I'm working with,
Hmm.
the cry will always be, I know you want 2 days rehearsal, but look how many of you are there, and we can't
Wow.
afford it. So we
Yeah.
have to get so the preparation. It's like when I write the arrangements, you double check and triple check everything for every note, and whether every note, this note should be short or that should be long. You mark everything because if you've got a rehearsal in the day and each vocalist has only got half an hour's rehearsal, because that's how the only way. The last thing you want is somebody putting their hand up and say, "Guys, that's supposed to be an F sharp. It sounds right, Oh, okay, no, it's an F natural. Okay." So every time you get one of those, you've now wasted 30 seconds, and that will turn into minutes, and then half an hour if you're not. So that's the thing. The preparation is really important.
And this is really interesting information for the listeners because it just goes to show how much work goes on behind the scenes to put on a really good show for the
Yeah.
people, isn't it?
Hmm.
It's quite fascinating. So yeah, so okay, just to reiterate then, so this concert at the Royal Albert Hall takes place on 17th of December, and obviously tickets can be purchased in the usual places, the websites and all the other things. And what time does the concert begin usually?
7:30. 7:30.
7:30. 7:30 for about how long is it actually? 2, 3 hours or
We go on. We go on till about 10:15.
10. So yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
And
something
I
like
wanted
that.
to
But
ask,
it could,
beg your pardon?
it's sometimes you get held up if the audience really likes somebody, you have to wait for them to stop applauding.
Oh,
So,
yeah.
no, but no, it's yeah, it is what it is. We usually aim to make sure we're off around. Yeah, we're getting close by 10:20. Sorry, 10:10. 10 past 10. It's just a normal concert length, but
Hmm.
but lots
And
but
would
lots.
something as extravagant as that, do you do encores if the crowd
Yeah.
demands?
Oh yeah. We've got one lined up. Don't worry. It's ready to go.
Ready to go. Excellent.
Yeah, it's like
So,
was it Claire Teal always says, "Thank you so much." He said, and this is the last number, and they go, "Oh," and they said, "Before the encore." You know.
I suppose as an artist, if you don't get an encore, then there is something that's wrong, I suppose, isn't
Yeah, yeah. There's nothing more miserable than that. But having that, some of the guys in the band will go, "Oh, that's great. We'll get to the bar quicker."
it? Okay, that's great. I just wanted to ask you before you go. So besides that, what other sort of projects do you get involved in sort of during the year? So like in 2026, is there any other projects that you involved
Yeah,
in?
yeah, yeah. Well, I mentioned before Naomi Banks, this amazing singer.
Hmm.
I'm I'm making an album with her, with an orchestra. We've recorded 2 tracks, and early next year we're going to record another 4. Um, I also have this Hank Mobley project, but also I'm sure you know Dave Sanborn, the
Yes,
great
of course, yeah.
saxophone. Well,
Yeah.
he was a good friend of mine, and I'd actually only met him like about 5 or 6 years ago, and his wife is a fantastic singer-songwriter from Paris, and I'd gone
Okay.
out there. We were working on the idea of creating an orchestral um, album together, along with a great classical saxophone player called Amy Dixon, and but and then Dave died, which was tragic. And then after a long time, Alice Sawyer, his wife, moved back to Paris and said, "Look, I've got these tracks that Dave and I recorded for this record that we wanted to do together." But Dave always loved the idea of having strings added to it and for me to do it. So because we've actually got Dave's recording with her, and his
Yeah.
best friend and manager has said, "Look, let's do it." So I'm going to be working on creating the arrangements for that, and it'll be a posthumous album.
Yeah. Sure.
Um,
Well,
so
that
that
sounds
could,
great.
yeah,
Yeah. Sorry.
it'll be a quite emotional thing to do as well, you know. But
Hmm.
it's so there's that, and then I'd have to get my diary out and have a look. But we're doing the Miles thing, and then there'll be, you know, that this piece that I wrote with Rob Ryan. There's the piece called Inferno 67. We want to do a part two. We want to do a sequel.
Hmm.
Um, so we're going to be writing that in June. I'm working with Billy Cobham again with my big band. We're going to do
Oh, funny enough, I was just listening to some of your stuff earlier today. The Art of
with Billy.
Five.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, yes, that was a while ago. Yeah, that
Yeah.
was. But yeah, I've arranged his music for big band, and we're going to do some gigs and hopefully record it in June. So
Oh, wow.
it's all going on.
Oh, well, that's great. Yeah, it sounds like you're very, very busy, and those projects sound amazing. And I will definitely look out for when these things are released. With
Mm.
David Samble, I never actually got to see him play, but I did see him do a talk at the South Bank. This was many years ago, before one of his concerts, and he
Oh
was just
no,
talking through his career and everything. So yeah, that was quite fascinating. But
yeah.
yeah, he was an amazing musician.
Oh, just incredible. He's like the first person to change the sound of that instrument since Charlie Parker.
So,
You know,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, he had
amazing.
so many copycats, but you always knew, you could always tell, couldn't you?
Yeah,
Like, it's a bit like with Michael Brecker. You could always tell there's something not quite right
yeah,
with the
yeah,
original sound.
yeah. Yeah. It's well, they're two two people definitely worth idolizing, aren't they? You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I sound a bit nostalgic now, but we did live through, and you played through an amazing period of musicians from that period. And Jack Disney also went recently.
Yeah,
So yeah,
yeah. We've got yeah.
but
Dave.
let's end on an upbeat note.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, so well, first of all, thanks for the interview, and sounds like it's going to be another amazing concert
yeah.
celebrating
Should
10 years, and that's some going as well.
yeah.
So congratulations for that as well. And I'm sure
Thank you.
there'll be another 10 years to go, the way
I
things are
would love
sounding.
that. I would love that.
Great. So yeah, so thanks for the interview, and yeah, enjoy the rest of your day and weekend.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. See
Thank
you
you.
again.
The JLR Interview Series.